First, Mitt Romney tells us that only he knows who is being vetted for the Republican vice presidential nomination. Then, he tells us who's being vetted.
Over the next few months, eligible individuals will be able to request temporary relief from deportation.
President Obama's new immigration stance,
the president's executive order,
the immigration policy,
has Mitt Romney at a national disadvantage.
We've got the Bloomberg poll today.
Nearly 2/3 of Americans supporting the president.
64% of the public support it, 30% disagree with it. It remains a huge problem for Republicans.
Would you repeal this?
That's a clown question, bro.
We'll look at that setting as we reach that.
Clown question, bro.
he's changed his position so much he doesn't know where he started.
I think immigration is a very important issue.
Marco Rubio was really put on the spot.
The White House never called us about this.
Well, so much for a Romney-Rubio ticket. Marco Rubio has not even been vetted. Rubio is not getting vetted, not being seriously vetted by the campaign. They are not asking for his financial records. He's been thrown under the bus anyway.
I know he's going to make a great choice.
Marco Rubio missed the window if he had one.
The story was entirely false. Marco Rubio is being thoroughly vetted.
If this wasn't so real, it'd almost be funny. Let's take a look at their value system.
Corporations are people, my friend. I like being able to fire people who provide services to me.
You think I'm making this up? Just listen to Romney.
This is not about me. You're not here because I'm some spectacular speaker. Y'all know better than that.
I give him points for honesty.
If this wasn't so real, it'd almost be funny.
A new Bloomberg News poll, the first poll taken since President Obama announced his new policy of stopping deportations of some undocumented people under the age of 30, shows that 64% agree with the president's new policy, 30% disagree with it, and 6% are not sure. Among the coveted independent voters, a full 65% of them say they support the president's policy announcement. Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell, who has done everything in his power to prevent any positive steps in immigration policy from coming to a vote in the United States Senate, now has no idea what he thinks about the president's new policy.
Both the presidential candidates, both the incumbent and the challenger, are going to be addressing this issue Thursday at an important meeting of Hispanic Americans. I think most of my members are interested in learning what Governor Romney has to say about this issue. I think we're going to wait until we hear what Governor Romney has to say on this issue. He is the leader of our party from now until November, and we hope beyond. And we're going to wait and see what he has to say about it.
After Mitch McConnell left that opening, Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid quickly found his way to a microphone.
Romney's had 4 or 5 days, and he was asked 4 different times on the Schieffer program this weekend what he wanted to do, and he wouldn't answer. It's too bad that he's campaigned for a year and a half. He should have some semblance, an idea of how he feels about that.
Sean Hannity asked Romney about it tonight. Romney avoided answering the question, of course, but Sean Hannity is too irreversibly stupid to realize that.
Do you believe it's constitutional? And substantively, where do you come down on the issue?
Well, with regards to the law, does he have the capacity to do what's been proposed or what he's asked the Department of Homeland Security to do? That's something we're going to let the lawyers, and I presume it'll be challenged in the courts, determine. My own view is we need to have a long-term solution for those that have come here illegally, having been brought by their parents. So through no fault of their own, they're here, they've gone to school here. How do we deal with these folks? What's their long-term course in America? And that requires a long-term solution. He described what he did as a stopgap measure. These kids don't want a stopgap measure. They want some permanence and understanding what their status is going to be. My own view is, with regards to illegal immigration, we have to secure the border first. We have to have an employment verification system. And number 3, we have to give these kids an understanding of what their long-term future in America will be. And those that serve in the military, for instance, I think should be given a green card with the occasion to stay in this country the rest of their life if they'd like to.
Yeah, Sean Hannity is no Bob Schieffer.
Well, what would you do about it?
Well, as you know, he was president for the last 3.5 years, did nothing on immigration.
Would you just repeal it?
We'll look at that. We'll look at that setting as we reach that.
Joining me now, Crystal Ball, Democratic strategist and MSNBC contributor, and John Howland, National Affairs editor for New York Magazine and an MSNBC political analyst. Crystal, the Republicans, including Mr. Romney, are tied up in knots by this announcement by President Obama. Still, days later.
Yeah, absolutely. And the polling that you referenced that shows how popular the proposal is, I think underscores the challenge for them. Because the other piece of that is 56% of Republicans say that they do not support. So a majority of Republicans say they do not support the proposal. So it's very difficult for the Republican candidate for president and the Republican Party to stake out any sort of position that will be even moderately acceptable to their base and the American people. So that's the problem for them. And you have this beautiful thing of they have no idea what to say, from Mitch McConnell to Mitt Romney to everyone else. And on the one hand, you've got the Republicans talking about process, oh, we need a long-term solution, oh, is this okay to do, was it constitutional? On the other hand, you have Democrats who can tell stories about young people whose lives have been changed by this decision, who were brought to this country, who are aspiring, who are achieving, who are honor students. So that is a political narrative that is a beautiful thing if you're a Democrat.
John, Sean Hannity doesn't know this, but Mitt Romney is a graduate of Harvard Law School. And when asked, is this constitutional, he had absolutely no idea, couldn't even begin to venture an opinion. When we read your campaign book about this campaign, there will be a behind-the-scenes story of how the Romney campaign dealt with this thing. What is your guess about what's going on in the Romney campaign, the political calculation about the Latino vote that's at stake, their formula for getting an electoral college win, the politics of this that Crystal just mentioned within the base of the Republican Party and the mainstream of the Republican Party? How are they calculating all of those things and how Romney handles this?
Uncomfortably. Yeah, that's the answer.
Clearly.
Look, I think that they were enjoying the possibility of trying to, as they are trying to throughout this campaign, keeping the focus on President Obama and the economy. That is an answer, a macro answer to a lot of problems. If you look at the Hispanic communities in important swing states, in Florida, in New Mexico, in Nevada, in Colorado, those communities are hurting economically, and in some of those states, they're some of the biggest foreclosure states in the country. And the Romney campaign wanted to just talk about how the Obama economy is hurting everybody, and it's hurting Hispanics particularly. Barack Obama's primary imperative, they would say, is to fix the economy. Secondarily, help with the housing crisis. Obama campaign administration has not done those things, and so Hispanics, you are like everyone else. You are hurt by Barack Obama's mismanagement of the economy. Among the many brilliant political effects of this move on Friday, in addition to blunting a lot of attacks that could have been made by Republican super PACs and Obama on immigration and so forth, it focuses back on what is an issue that Hispanics care about specifically as Hispanics. And once you start having that conversation, Republicans are in a world of hurt, and they find themselves in the place that Crystal was describing, which is there's no good place for Romney to go on this. He can't take a position that is both popular with the country, popular with Hispanics, and also popular with his base. There is no good answer.
Well, and frankly, it's not like their strategy prior to this was working out that great with the Latino community. I mean, they were the president was being supported by somewhere between 60 to 70% of Latinos already. But the question for this is, does it inspire more people to go out and vote? Does it inspire more people to register? And not just in the Latino community, but more broadly. I mean, this is an issue that really energizes people like me, the base. As his stance on gay marriage.
Well, we saw polling that it very specifically energizes the Latino vote in this country.
Absolutely.
We saw polling indicating that something like 50% are more enthusiastic about supporting President Obama.
And remember, what the Obama campaign has been worried about for the last 3 months is that they like, obviously, their huge lead in the Hispanic population, the Hispanic vote. Their concern was that the Romney campaign and affiliated super PACs would give up on trying to close the gap and focus on trying to suppress the Hispanic vote, try to keep Hispanics from coming out. How would they do that? They would run a relentlessly negative campaign against the president. From the left, by saying he deported more Hispanics than any, more illegal immigrants than any president in history. In the center on the economy, and from the right on gay marriage, because a lot of Hispanics are culturally conservative. They would attack him from every possible angle, and by throwing so much mud and drawing the Obama campaign into a battle of that kind, they hoped they would just turn off a lot of Latino voters, so you couldn't close the gap, but you could push down the vote totals. This is the kind of thing that foils that plan, because not only it takes away one of the key arguments they could make against him in a negative campaign, and would also energize Hispanic votes in the way that you're saying.
One thing I will add to that, though, is the piece that still is in place is all of these states that have passed restrictive voter ID laws, restrictions on early voting on Sunday before Election Day voting, all designed to also suppress minority turnout. And Latino voters as a subgroup have one of the lowest levels of voter registration of any subgroup. So those are things, the voter ID requirements in particular, that do have an impact on the Latino community.
What's very clear about this tactically is it has thrown the ball into the Republicans' court. I mean, as soon as the president did this, Bob Schieffer starts asking Mitt Romney, okay, what do you think about it? He continues to get asked what he thinks about it, still doesn't know what he thinks about it. Mitch McConnell gets asked what he thinks about it and has to say, I don't know. And this is the guy who always knows I'm opposed to anything President Obama's in favor of. Let's listen to Boehner handling the same question.
I think we all have concerns for those who are caught in this trap, who through no fault of their own are here. But the president's actions are going to make it much more difficult for us to work in a bipartisan way to get to a permanent solution.
You could just the slowness with which he kind of works his way to that, the president has somehow made this worse. You can just see, he knows he's stuck.
Well, when he started off with the, we all have concern for people who are caught in this trap, I was sort of wondering if he was talking about himself. Yeah. But, I mean, that's the case, and it's just patently ridiculous on its face to think that the president taking action here is what's standing in the way of Congress getting their act together on action around illegal immigration and undocumented workers. I mean, the other thing that's patently ridiculous is their whole commentary, we need a long-term solution. Okay, well, what is your long-term solution? Is self-deportation all that you have to offer here? Because that doesn't make a lot of sense to most people.
John, you can tell how it's working when you see which side is feeling pressured by the questions. President Obama has faced no tough questions about this since the announcement. He had one heckler. He made some, Rose Garden history with having a heckler. That's it. These guys are the ones facing the tough questions, and they make the questions even tougher by not having an answer.
Yes, not having an answer, and as soon as many people have pointed out, as soon as you start saying the president's playing politics, as soon as someone just keeps you saying you're playing politics, it usually means you're playing politics well. Right. It means you're winning the argument. They don't have a good answer here, and I often, it makes me smile to think about the time when the Republican Party was run by visionaries like George W. Bush and Karl Rove, who recognized that the Hispanic vote was a really important thing. Now, the Republican Party, in the person of its nominee and in its leadership in Congress, has not been able to get to grips with that basic demographic reality. You cannot be a national governing party if you have 30%, 32%, 28% of the Hispanic vote. It doesn't work anymore. The math doesn't work. Right. And this may be the thing that ends up being, in the end, actually the reason that Mitt Romney ends up not becoming president of the United States.
It's always the math. Crystal Ball and John Heilman, thank you very much for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Coming up. The day began with the Romney campaign saying they were not vetting Marco Rubio as a possible running mate for Mitt Romney, and ended with Mitt Romney saying that he is vetting Marco Rubio as a possible running mate. The Romney campaign is losing control of the Romney VP search. And later, the official chaplain of the Colbert Report is here to talk about how jealous he is of the nuns on the bus this week. And in the Rewrite Tonight, the latest step toward rewriting marijuana laws. One of the most conservative states has taken a first step towards the complete decriminalization of marijuana, not just medical marijuana. That's coming up.